Ladies and gentlemen, the questions you've all been asking are now being answered. Welcome to another edition of It's All About Who You Know, the podcast where influential people discuss big topics in sports, faith, and more. Your host is a wrestler with Oregon State University. He has a 4.9 star Uber rating, and he interns for his pastor. Here is Christian Robertson.
You got it, big dog?
I got it.
Dude, this is the most awkward thing.
Why?
I don't. Well, first of all, this is my first in-person podcast, so thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Dude, what's been the favorite part or the best part of the trip so far for you?
For me, today was the best part. Being able to give my testimony at a place like Gory in front of world champ Gino Petrashvili and the guy that actually injured me a few weeks ago. So it was pretty cool to wrestle a guy in my hometown and then come to his hometown and be able to share my faith story, even though I wasn't able to wrestle with him again.
Gotcha. What's so everything just with the trip and everything. Was this your first mission trip?
This is my first mission trip.
What'd you think, man? Besides today, but what'd you expect? Was there anything, God showed you? Was there anything God was able to use you in that you didn't know or thought was going to happen?
I had some expectations coming in. I've been dealing with my own decisions and things that I've been praying about for a while. So I was hoping to find some answers while I was here. I knew it would be an opportunity for me to be in the Word every day, being led in Bible studies by some people that were stronger in their faith than I am. Possibly meet some mentors along the way, which I did in Mr. Peterson. I got his number and I've been texting him daily. He's been sending me some encouraging Bible verses, things that he's thought about, and, just being able to spend time with him in Azerbaijan was really eye-opening and inspiring. I could just tell he was a man of strong faith. He seemed like a walking Bible. He could pop off verses off the top of his head.
Dude, I know. I was like, John, what's this verse? He's like, oh, it's, Galatians whatever. And I was just like, thanks, John.
Yeah, you could just see that the hand of God was in his life and for a long time now. And it's just inspiring to, just continue to repent and grow in my faith and grow closer to God, and, leave old habits behind and start new and totally just become that new creation that God offers us.
Yeah. Did you have your phone off the whole trip?
I was on airplane mode the whole trip, but, when I was on Wi-Fi, I'd be Snapchatting and going on some social media. And
so you didn't go the full cold turkey like I did. I get it, bro. It's cool.
No, I didn't. I usually don't, but I do find solace in the fact of coming overseas and, being able to enjoy different countries. And for me, especially on this trip, it was more seeing God's creation in a different light, and just being able to walk around, hike, just see the different people and knowing that I didn't have something waiting on the other line. Maybe when I got back and saw some Snapchats or some texts, but I wasn't in any hardcore conversations with anybody from home. And I found a lot of peace in the fact that my main source of conversation here was with God or about God, and just offered me a lot of opportunity to think about how I want to change from this trip and how I want to continue to dive into the Word every single day, and grow in my faith. Like I said, Mr. Peterson was so inspiring that he definitely has already pushed me to become a better Christian and, live as much like Jesus did as I can.
Yeah. No, it was cool I thought it was cool because this is the closest I've ever been to where Jesus would actually walk. So, I had some expectations coming in, just maybe there's almost kind of when you get closer to sunlight, you get more exposed to it. I was like, I wonder if there's like that almost like Mike aspect to it, like the shoes are like closer to Jerusalem. You know what I mean? Like where he's at. I was wondering if like that would rub off and I'd be like more holy, but I don't think that happened. I was like, if I turn my phone off and like go completely solace, like, but I don't know. I think there was a lot of value in the trip in general, and just it was just cool, man. I mean, it was fun to see the kids. It was tough with the interpreter. I felt like all the interpretation, I feel like with that, like it really forces you to surrender to God, like in a different way. It's like, we're spreading the gospel, but there's like, you have to completely trust God that like this message, like whoever's talking to you, like, cause we didn't have like professional interpreters, like, God bless the guys that were interpreting, but they were not like getting hired for presidential interpretation or anything like that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So yeah, man, you just hope and pray that what was said really, really hits them. And it was super cool to see John Peterson when he spoke in Azerbaijan. Come on, dude, what's going on? When he spoke, letting them, when they let him speak about Jesus in Azerbaijan, I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And for those of you guys that don't know, Azerbaijan is a very, it's kind of a liberal Muslim country, but it's they don't really. I mean, they'll kick Christians out of the country for talking about their faith. So
yeah, I think that was one thing that was really interesting to me before the trip, and something I was really looking forward to, because I knew that Azerbaijan was primarily Muslim, so I was interested to see how we would be received and how, kind of in what context we were going to be able to share the gospel. I know, like, when we got here, they kind of told us to prepare our testimonies, and none of us gave them over in Azerbaijan just based on circumstances. It would have been tougher, I think, especially, like you said, with the translators and just, their predominant culture that's already there.
And you kind of, like, within that culture, you have to earn the right to speak, like, very heavily, especially in a Muslim culture. Like, being a Christian, like, you're not going to get an opportunity to speak. But John having, like, they idolize Olympic champs. And so John being an Olympic champ really, like, put his foot in the door for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But, no, it was, dude, that Azerbaijan, man, I was getting kind of, like, worried, because this is a mission trip. But I was like, man, are we doing enough evangelism? And so I was like, okay, I've been taking my shirt off every day at, like, practice. So I just was, like, praying. I was like, God, I pray that, like, somebody asks about my tattoo. Like, I've got 1 Peter 2:24 on my chest. I was just, like, intentionally praying that somebody would ask about my tattoo. And as simple as that was, and then I met a guy that actually spoke English on one of their teams, so I was intentionally praying that he would ask about the tattoo. And sure enough, the last day, or the second to last day, he asked about it, like 5 other guys, and then I translated it in their language, and then the last day, the coach asked about it. And so, like, I don't know, man, like, that's one of those things. It's like you can't do a lot, but, like, you just hope that what you can do, like, makes a difference. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
Like,
did you get any response, like, when you did share, the verse that you have? What was their response?
Dude, one of their Greco heavyweights slapped one of the kids that was translating it for me. Like, the guys asked, and I don't know what they were saying. I think they were bashing me a little bit, because it seemed like one guy was like, they were all Muslim, like, they all talked about, like, one guy was like, oh, only one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. Like, one guy said that in English, but the one guy that I handed the verse to that was transcribed in Azeri, he was like, he seemed like he was cool with it. Like, he seemed like, not like converting right then and there, but like not demonizing it. And he was talking to them, and they were talking in their, like, in Azeri or Russian or whatever. And one of the heavyweights, like, just slapped him in the head at one point. And there's like 5 guys around, like, listening to this, and I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't know what the context was. I asked him, he wouldn't tell me, like, what they were saying, and I think the guy was saying something along the lines of, like, this stupid Christian. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he was being real nice and was joking, but, like, yeah, he slapped him in the head, and but I told him he could keep it, the thing, And yet the coach that asked, he was the one that called out LaValle that day and wrestled with LaValle. That was funny. He just called out LaValle, but he asked and was able, and then the guy standing next to him was like, oh, I speak English, I can translate. So I told him, and he asked what it meant. And I went and grabbed the piece of paper and I handed it to him and they read it. And it was also cool too because, you know, in the States, like, you know, you have a tattoo, like everybody can read it and they kind of like, but over there, like, guys don't know what it says and nobody has tattoos. Like if you have a tattoo, you've been to prison. So like when people see a tattoo, like it's not a common thing. So they're asking about it. It was just kind of cool to see like an impulse decision I made 2 years ago like manifest itself into somebody hearing the gospel in that way, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
That was
sweet.
It was cool. But yeah, you oh dude, the train ride. That was awful.
Yeah, we had it wasn't actually 13 hours and it shouldn't have been 13 hours. Apparently it was only 360 miles, but our train must have hit a top speed of 15 miles per hour.
It was so bad, man. Those ladies were so mean.
The ladies were super mean, just yelling in whatever language they were yelling in, telling us to be quiet. But, you know, I think the choo-choo train crew of Christian Barbell Robertson, Elijah Eagle Cleary, Scott Kyle Obendorfer, and J Mac, Joey McKenna. I think we made it happen.
Freedom!
We definitely had some good conversation on that trip. Got to, you know, that was another piece of the trip that I really enjoyed was, you know, getting to know people that I've met for the first time and, you know, being able to share our faith together and share that common love of Jesus Christ and being able to learn about each other and, you know, hopefully create some lifelong friendships that will continue on. You know, this is the first podcast of Barbell and J-Mac, but, you know, hopefully more to come.
First of many, man. I mean, you got to win a world title to get on for a second time, so.
Hey, it's all about who you know. It's all about who you know.
Elijah Cleary's over doing homework in the corner, and he's like, bro, you guys need to shut up.
But yeah, I mean, the trip overall, honestly, I'm pretty sad that it's coming to an end. I've really enjoyed it over here, and, you know, I came for a different purpose than I initially signed up for the trip for. I mean, not a different purpose, but, you know, about 5 weeks ago, I got injured, so I wasn't able to. I knew I wasn't going to be able to wrestle and train like I wanted to on this trip, but, you know, I still made the call and asked if I could still come along because, you know, I just thought it would be beneficial for me to just be in the Word every day and continue to grow my relationship with Jesus and, you know, do my first type of missionary work. You know, in the Bible, God calls us first to be a disciple and then to disciple other people. And, you know, I think once you become a Christian, you do become a missionary. And, you know, it's just something in the past 2 years that I've grown with. And, you know, I feel way more comfortable sharing my faith now than I did a year ago. And, you know, I just know that love of sharing the word of Jesus Christ is going to continue. And it's really encouraging and inspiring and gives me a lot to look forward to in the midst of, you know, hectic days of life.
Yeah. And we talked about this, was it last night maybe, but like, I guarantee somebody asked the question, why would Joey Mckenna be here if he's hurt? And the only answer to that is, you know, is this mission that we're on, is Jesus. And I think, I don't know if the guy that hurt you is a Christian, but did you know he's going to be here?
I didn't know he was going to be here. I knew that he trained here. But when I did find out that we were coming to Gory, I was hoping that he would be here so that I could see him again.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't know if or when I was going to share my testimony, you know, because we didn't get to do much of that in Azerbaijan. Mm-hmm. I didn't really know how much all of us would be able to share our personal stories of how we came to Christ.
Yeah.
And when I saw him today,
that was funny.
I got excited and it was funny. He recognized me immediately and actually wanted to roll again. But unfortunately, I mean, I probably could have done a little more than I did, but, just
I think it's good to play it safe.
Yeah, I wanted to err on the side of being cautious, but, it was interesting today, especially coming into Georgia. I mean, I had I knew that Azerbaijan was a Muslim country, but Georgia was a Christian country, but I didn't understand initially that they were a Christian Orthodox, more ritualistic type of Christianity. And
did you hear what Steve said about them? Remember the bridge we went to the other day?
Yeah.
So he was saying, not that bridge, but a different bridge. I guess a bunch of Muslims came in, and or Muslims or Arabs, some cultural group came in, and there was 100,000 Georgian Christians captive, and they said, convert or die, and they killed 100,000 people that day. And I guess a lot of people in the Georgian culture, like when you ask somebody like, oh, what's your faith, or are you Christian? It's like, oh, I grew up, or I was raised in, and that's kind of like their cling to faith. It's not personal. I think that's more what a lot of people in Georgia cling to, is like, oh, my grandpa was killed in that massacre, something like that. But no, I think it was, I think there's always a need, but I think that was super beneficial hearing your testimony. But you were saying something, and I kind of interrupted.
No, yeah, that's exactly it. But just today, being able to share, like I said earlier, with, the type of wrestlers that were in that room is just, awesome. And creating some relationships to hopefully come back to Georgia in the future and, continue the mission work that we've put in, They've told us on this trip that, obviously we came here for a mission trip, and we hope to see the seed planted and the seed start to bear some fruit and really see that transformation. But, that's not the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is that we came, we did what we did, and, we can really only pray and hope that God started to touch their hearts and soften it and, allow them to hear the message that we were giving. But, today was encouraging in the sense that, they seemed very receptive, and, they seemed like a very nice group of people. Gino Petrashvili is...
Did you see me put the whooping on him?
I did.
It was bad, man.
You were probably, twice the size of him.
Dude, he's tiny. Elijah's like, oh my gosh. Bro, he's way smaller than I thought, man. I put my hands on him, he couldn't move.
Yeah, he's just a beast, but just a standout guy also. Afterwards, he wanted to take us to lunch and wanted to, do things for us.
Yeah.
And we got treated very well today, and, I would say that today was definitely my favorite day of the trip, not only because I got to share my testimony, but I just think, we got to experience some servitude that was the greatest that we've seen on this trip. And, it was just, inspiring. And it did feel, for me, it did feel like God touched the heart of a few people in there. And, even after that, seeing the Stalin Museum was incredible in the sense of just so much historical background and, so much crazy things that have happened in this world. It's just breathtaking. You just don't really know what to think, but just kind of soak it in and take it for what it's worth. And then, we got to visit 2 refugee camps while we were here in Georgia and be able to play with kids and, some 20-year-olds play soccer, sports that we never play. We're wrestlers. Come on.
Shout out to Warren Stewart, Mark 9.
Literally 5 government agencies.
Either way, I just feel like
this is ours.
we got treated very well, and we wanted to treat these people well. We treated them how God would treat them, with love and character, and on the same playing field that we are.
Yeah, I feel like we got treated almost too well. Like, I'm still expecting, like, tomorrow at the airport to get, like, bombarded by Gustavo or something, like, arrested, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like we didn't get enough scrutiny for what we were doing. I don't know. But, no, dude, that was cool.
I will say I was pretty scared, though, when we pulled up and, the guy's ripping a cig with the AK-47 strapped around his waist. Like, what the heck?
Dude, I got out of the car. I was like, oh, shoot, man. Like, we're going to get kidnapped or something. They were telling us, so there's that, where we were. So I don't know if you heard this, but where we were is, like, Russian occupied. It's not Russia. It's still on the border of Georgia and Russia. But, like, there's, like, a 10-kilometer gap or something. But, like, the guards there, the Russian guards, or, like, people guarding that will, like, drink a bunch of vodka and then kidnap people and bring them over and ask for ransom. And they make money doing that.
Yeah, well, luckily that didn't
I know. I was like, Rustam was, like, walking up. I was like, bro, Rustam's going to get kidnapped, man. Like, this is not going to be good. Like, that's disgusting. And then when we got in the car, Rustam was talking to this farmer. I don't know if you weren't there. He was talking to this farmer, and this farmer comes up to Steve, and it's like,
no, I don't want to. It's a funny scene.
He's like, hey, baby, you want to drink some vodka and get in the plow with me?
What?
This dude's eyes were in the back of his head. He was so drunk. And it was like, baby, you want to get in, baby?
Yeah, and Crazy Steve's head and eyes were bugging.
Yeah, Steve. Oh my gosh, man. What was it like when you guys were in the back of the car listening to me and Steve just talk about everything we were talking about? Because Steve and I hogged the conversation in every van ride. Like, there was no, like, LaValle would jump in every once in a while because he likes to interrupt, and we would just be like, shut up, Joey. We're talking. The men are talking.
Yeah, I mean, like, Steve's another standout guy that we got to spend time with and meet on this trip. I mean, he's dedicated his life to Jesus, and, you can see the fruit of that in all that he's done. He has so many stories. Most of them are pretty funny.
Story time with Steve coming soon.
Yeah, most of them are pretty funny, but, the guy's lived a life, and he's lived a life for Jesus, and it's, again, inspiring and encouraging, knowing that people do this every day.
Yeah.
It isn't just a religion to them. It is their life. It consumes you. When you have that relationship and when you feel the presence of the Holy Spirit in your life, you start to see the fruit of that. And, we got to experience firsthand the fruit of that with Steve just telling his stories. And I mean, just this trip wouldn't have been possible without him. He's made so many relationships along the way that made everything possible.
And he kind of speaks the language that some of these people can speak. Like, that's a big thing too. No, dude, he was funny, man. It was so funny because I met Steve 5 years ago, my senior year of high school, and I don't remember him being as goofy as he was, but like everything he does, man, is just so like animated and drawn out. It was pretty funny. But you just you said something really cool there, and we talked about this last night. But you said he lives the lifestyle. It's not it's something about along the lines of religion. It's not but we were talking about this last night, and I think this kind of ties into what you're moving. Obviously I know the story, but I'd love for you to tell it again. But you moving from Stanford to OSU. Unbeknownst to you, that became like the biggest faith journey of your life, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, 100%. I went to Stanford on a limb. I knew it was far from home. I knew, I went there because it was the best academic university in the world. And, I did well my freshman year, came in as a true freshman All-American, took first in Stanford's history, got named as a captain my sophomore year. But as I was there, things just started to kind of wear on me, and I don't really know what those things are. I would say that God was starting to work in my life because I felt this emptiness and I felt this void, and, it's kind of where my testimony starts. And, I struggled with it a lot because I've always been a person that cares a lot about what people think. And, when I was thinking about transferring, I had to let go of those things. I had to let go the thoughts that people had about me and what people would say if I transferred from a place like Stanford. But, throughout the process, I looked at great options in Ohio State, Penn State, and Lehigh. And, just when I went to Ohio State, there was just something about it. I felt this motivation, this deep burning fire in everybody. And, I don't know that during the recruiting process I could have placed my finger on it. But, that summer after I had committed, it was my birthday, and my mom bought me a Bible, and she gave it to me on my birthday and told me that I would probably need it when I went to Ohio State. And, I had known that Ohio State's culture was, I knew Tom Ryan was a pretty devout Christian. I'd heard his testimony before, and it's very powerful. And I'd been good friends with Kyle Snyder. I knew he was strong and growing in his faith. And, even from when I showed up there to now, it's leaps and bounds. And, I went there, and the first week I was there, I actually went to the Athletes in Action at Ohio State. And, that's where I started my walk. And, as time grew, through conversations with Kyle and Tervel, Nate, and just other people, I started attending Bible studies, and I started feeling this relationship growing. I started being filled with joy. I started having less anxiety when I wrestled. I could go out and compete more freely because everything that I have was a weakness because of the surpassing worth of knowing Jesus Christ. And, that was a prayer that I said before every match, and it really allowed me to go out there and compete freely. And, here I am 2 years later on a mission trip and sad to leave because I want to continue to do this work. It feels so rewarding, and it feels like something I should be doing.
Yeah.
And, it's been an amazing walk since. And, I grew up Catholic, and, I just never truly understood what it meant to have a relationship with Jesus. And that's what I found at Ohio State. And, what I learned was no matter the results, wins or losses, it's not about that. It's about, how I'm progressing through life and how God is helping me through that, and the growth that he's given me, the opportunities that he's presented to me. And I truly do think that me going to Ohio State was a calling from God. Tom Ryan did call me out of high school, and I didn't even give him the time of day. And, there I was 3 years later looking to go there. And, yes, I found a great wrestling program, but, I found my father. And, I wouldn't trade any of it for the world. People ask me all the time if I regret anything about my decision. And I don't, not one bit. I miss all my friends at Stanford and all the relationships I created there. But I found the best relationship in going to Ohio State and being able to, just repent and change my mind on things and thinking and pursuing God as my priceless, as the one thing that is most important in my life. And yeah, here I am, coming on this trip, knowing I was injured, not being able to do what I originally thought I was going to do. When I didn't make the trials in May, I went to the last chance qualifier. I lost. I took second. And, I have lofty goals in wrestling, but I know that those aren't going to fulfill me. And when that happened, when I didn't make the trials, I immediately called up the Athletes in Action people and told them that I was definitely down. They wanted me to come on the trip for a while, and
You call Rob?
I called Rob. Yeah, I called Rob Bronson, and I told him that it's definitely a go. I want to be there.
Yeah.
And like I said, when I got injured, I called him up, and he was happy to still have me, whether I could wrestle or not. And I think, like you said, people might ask why would I come if I couldn't even wrestle. I mean, I got on the mat 4 times in the 2 weeks we were here. But it's been the most rewarding 2 weeks of my summer for sure, and really the most rewarding, I think, all year.
Yeah. Do you think there's a way? how do I put? Do you think there's a way to compete at the fullest? Because we've talked about being a Christian. Our value is not wrapped up in what we do. That's just it. It's what we do. It's not who we are. And I see a lot of guys who are very successful are wrapped up in what they do. And I'm wondering, do you think there's a way? And Kyle would probably be an exception, but there's very few guys that you can. And I'm missing some. So if you're a Christian and you're on top of the world, good for you. I'm missing your name, but I just want. Do you think there's a way to be as competitive as the most competitive athlete you can be, and not be as focused on it because it's not your life doesn't depend on it? There's so many guys that are world champs that if you take that world title away, are nothing. And I'm not saying I think they're nothing. I'm saying they feel like they're nothing. Like their value and their perception, the person they look at in the mirror is a world champ, which is not a bad thing, but I feel like it's not as good of a thing as saying I'm a son or daughter of Christ. But I'm wondering, do you think there's any way to look at yourself in the mirror as a son or daughter of Christ and be the most, the baddest person in the world? Or do you think you have to have that do you think there's a give and take? Because I've had this conversation with my pastor, and I think there's a way to do it. Like you see missionaries and people like getting tortured and being like, joyous, and you see the martyrs of the Bible are able to do this thing and push through at a supernatural way. I'm wondering, do you think there's a way to compete that way?
I do. I actually really do, because I think a lot of it is perspective. The way we're taught to think in this culture is to set. I've heard this on this trip multiple times, but is to set goals and go out set to achieve them. And once you achieve them, you're supposed to be fulfilled. And
you're not. You never are.
You're not. I don't know. Maybe some people could tell you they are, but I never. I didn't win nationals like I had wanted. But what was your big goal in high school? Fargo, Junior Worlds. I couldn't even tell you. I just wanted to win everything, but that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to win everything.
Yeah.
And when I took second in the world in 2014 after my senior year, it felt great. But then people stopped talking about it, and it was just an accolade that I had, which yes, is impressive in the wrestling world, but I don't necessarily know. I don't think that's what God cares about.
Yeah.
And, at that time, I wasn't walking with God yet. So I would have just told you, man, it was to go win the Junior Worlds the next year.
Yeah.
And then I go and I don't make weight. And then it was, man, I need to be laser focused. I need to go win nationals now. I need to redeem myself. Everybody's talking poorly about me. And then I didn't go win. I had a great year, great season, but I didn't win nationals. And then, it's just another year of setting a goal. Okay, well, now I can't be a 4-time. Now I'll be a 3-time. Then I didn't place. And then, I started to make a change. And even after my junior year, after I took third, it was, okay, yes, set the new goal of being a national champ. But that wasn't what was driving me every day. What was driving me was my pursuit of Christ and how I could become better through him. Mm-hmm. And I think he's offered me that.
Yeah.
And even after I lost in the national finals, some would say it was a questionable call. The way I see it is I lost. But that didn't hold me back. I walked off the mat, and, I'm really grateful that somebody was there to capture this moment. But I walked off the mat, went into the back warm-up area, and dropped to my knees and just began praying and thanking God for the opportunities that he's given me, and thanking him for the growth that I'd had up to this point, and the continued relationship that I would have and how I could grow from that. And I might have been a little sad, and it was annoying that everybody that came up to me was like, man, you should have won. And, I was tired of having that conversation.
Yeah.
The conversation I wanted to have was, man, you have grown so much, and we see that.
Yeah.
And we know what that's because. And that was really encouraging, because when I did go back to Ohio State and I talked to guys like Kyle, he's like, man, I'm so proud of you. not because of what you did on the wrestling mat, but because of the leaps and bounds that I've seen you take in your faith in the past 2 years.
Yeah.
And I think that's our job as Christians. We should be different in a way that people notice that we're different. Not different in the sense of being an a-hole or just, being outspoken. It's
being a Pharisee almost.
Chair's wet.
Oh, the chair's wet. My
Yeah,
bad.
from my-
I'm switching chairs in case anybody's listening still.
But it's not about, it's about the growth that we've had, and that is what I want to show people. I want to show people that I continue to grow, and maybe I post more about Christian things now, post more Bible verses, because that is becoming, and that is right now, the center of my life. Especially being injured 5 weeks ago. It was a good setback in the sense of, God wants me to become closer to him right now.
Yeah.
And that is the way I took it, and that's why I'm here on this trip in Azerbaijan, in Georgia.
Yeah, that's really the most important thing, because it's the only thing that's going to last. What I think Warren said the first day of when we had our first Bible study, he was like, a rich guy and a poor guy, a guy with a lot of possessions and a guy with no possessions at the end of their life, if all their stuff burns down, one guy's got a bigger pile of ash, but it's still a pile of ash. You're still gone. And I just, obviously, first of all, I think it was a questionable call in the finals. And if I had Yanni on here, I would tell him the same thing. But I think there's ways to glorify God in everything, winning and losing. I think it's super cool to see you as gracious as you are. And, my senior year, I had a chip on my shoulder, kind of got senioritis in high school, and I wrapped everything up in a state title. I made a lot of improvement. And I really wish I would have been as content with my relationship with God, even as I am now. And I'm sure 5 years from now I'll be saying, the same thing about my time now. But because, I let it break me, man. It really hurt. I put, I wanted to prove so many people wrong. I wanted to, I wrote goals my freshman year that people laughed at, family members, were like, hey, don't say that out loud. And it's just and so when I finally, I lost state by 1 point, and I was devastated, man. And I think had I known what I know now, just that relationship with Christ, I don't think it would have hit me as hard. I think I would have bounced back. And I think there's just a lot of freedom in it, man. Is because I think you can work just as hard. I think that I take that back. I think the Penn State guys, we've had Scott on the trip, and I think him telling us a little bit about the Penn State guys. Those guys are almost all of them. First of all, half their team were national champs a couple years back, and they all talk about their faith, and they all talk about Jesus, and they all seem to be having a lot of fun. And Scott says practices are fun. And I think they've kind of figured out a recipe of being able to win, have fun, and be strong in your faith at the same time. Would you agree?
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't.
You're an
say
Ohio State guy, so
yeah.
you're going to be no, they suck. I hate them.
No, they're really good. I had the option to go there, but
Yeah.
for some reason, I truly believe that God was calling me in a different way.
Yeah.
And
No, not bashing Ohio State or anything.
yeah, no, they're really good, and I don't know the guys well enough to say that, but I do believe what Scott says, and more power to him if that totally is the case, because I think if you're following Christ and you're living your life to glorify him, then you're on the right path, because I think his job as our Father is to push us to be our best holistic selves. Mm-hmm. And, that's what I feel like I'm finding out more and more as I continue to pray and, grow closer in my relationship to him. I truly feel like he is pushing me to be the best Christian, but to be the actual best version of Joey Mckenna, whatever that may be. And,
Yeah.
I don't know yet. I'm still waiting for him to call me back and answer me. But
Right.
that's not how it happens. It's, it's believing by faith and really trusting in him and trusting that he's guiding me and just getting into the word and feeling that the knowledge and guidance that he has for us and teaching me how to live and be a better person. When it's all said and done, I want people to say about me that, wow, Joey Mckenna, he was one heck of a guy and he was a great follower of Christ.
Yeah.
That to me is what I want to be defined by now. I don't, if there's one thing that I want people to say about me, I want them to notice and know that I follow Jesus.
Yeah. I told you about the book Crazy Love, right?
Yes, and I need to read it.
Okay, you need to. This is, everybody's going to hear this, so everybody on podcast.
Hold me accountable, people. If
Yeah,
you ever
right.
see me, ask me if I've read the book Crazy Love.
If anybody listens to this at all, if Joey ends up shouting this out, hold him accountable. No, the biggest thing I got from that book is Francis Chan. He asked the question, if God wasn't in heaven, would you still want to go? And which I think really puts in check where your relationship with him is, And I kind of equate it to like a honeymoon. You wouldn't want to go on a honeymoon without your wife, but you wouldn't mind going anywhere with your wife. You would go anywhere if your wife was there. You know what I mean? Especially your new bride. If it's a honeymoon, it's man, I just want to be with you. From what I've heard, obviously I don't know anything about that, but Cleary, quit laughing at me, bro. Shut up, dog. You want to jump in here?
All good.
Okay, man. But I think along the lines of what you're saying too, God only wants us to be our best selves, which, first of all, nobody besides Jesus has ever been their best self. But I think he truly wants what's best for us. And it talks about that in the book a lot, and I think this is where Christianity gets a bad rap is people, they don't do a good job of expressing how much God wants the best for us. Because it is hard. I mean, it's like wrestling, Wrestling's tough, but it's way more rewarding and I feel better than doing nothing. You know what I mean? Following, pursuing your dreams and pursuing the things you want to do I feel way better than, being I'm going to bash some frat boys here, but being the frat boy that drinks and parties and has sex all the time, I just feel that doesn't really yield a lot of rewards. And if that's your thing, whatever, that's your thing. But, I feel that's, a good father. What good father doesn't want what's best for his kids, even if that means a little bit of hardship every once in a while. And I feel that kind of goes along with what you're saying. And I feel he's just proud of us and he wants the best for us on this earth, not just, in the next life too. And I feel Christians don't do a great job of expressing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, one thing I feel that I've learned, is how to deal with suffering, the suffering that we have to go through in this world and how to grow from it and how to lean on God in those times and thank him for the suffering because it will push us, it will put us in a situation to grow, depending on how you're taking it and how you're responding to the situation. And trips like this really give you perspective. We've seen plenty of people out here just, beggars, the type of housing that's around here. We are very fortunate to be living in America and have all that we have.
Yeah.
And, that's another reason why I love coming overseas. It puts everything into perspective. It makes you truly be grateful for the things that we have in this life. And it's such a good reality check. And, I love coming overseas for that reason. I have a running list on my phone of places I've been for wrestling, not for wrestling. But every time I'm so thankful to have had the opportunities to visit these places and to really put it back in my mind and put that perspective there to be thankful.
Yeah.
I think not enough people in this world are thankful for what they do have. They always just focus on what they don't, and the hardships that they go through, and and I'm not putting down any hardships, because life is hard.
Yeah.
And we all go through different struggles. We all have our struggles. We have our issues. And, I think if you approach it with the right mindset and, the right belief, that's where you will prosper, and that's where you will grow and just become better.
And you just never know what struggle is going to relate to somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a lot of ways to interpret this verse, but Jesus, before he ascends to heaven, he says, you will do greater things than me. And obviously we're not going to do greater things than him, but I think he meant more in terms of like the evangelism and the relatability aspect, like, because I think, we can all say, like, it's taken us all a few steps to get where we are. And had somebody told us where we were going to be when we started, we probably wouldn't have taken that first step. And I think a lot of that can be our intercession, like our testimony. We might be able to relate to somebody that, that other people can't. I've had, we got our Bible study, our small group at Oregon State, and there's people I've invited and, have shut me down or, just not even responded or said, oh, maybe some other time. And then somebody else in that group will invite them because they're on the same team, or be able to cross that boundary, And I think that's the same with evangelism in general, and just like relatability and honestly suffering. Like, I think, obviously, nobody wants to take joy in suffering, but I think, you can take, you can take suffering one of two ways. You can, say, woe is me, or you can say, how can this struggle bring somebody closer to Christ? And how can this struggle relate to somebody that maybe nobody else can? My mom's kind of going through something similar. Her friend, well, I won't even say that story, but like her friend, her husband's dying of cancer, and I've talked about him on the podcast. And which, guys, if you could please be praying for Michael Colson and his family. But my mom's there to like comfort his wife and stuff like that, and it's just tough, man. And you just never know, like. And she, she'll be calling me, and I'm just like, hey, God's put you in this situation for a reason, like, because he's probably, it's not looking good, but his whole thing is like, his whole mission right now is to bring as many people to Christ as he can before he dies, which I'm gonna head down to Cali before, or at the end of the week, and I'm gonna probably do a podcast with him too.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, but like I said, like, you just never know. Like, there could be somebody struggling, going through cancer right now that is denying God, and then he sees a guy that is struggling, going through cancer, who's, praising God. And that might be the bridge, to, like, of that gap, You just never know. And I think you kind of realize that with testimonies, and especially when people resonate with your testimony, when you can talk to somebody, and that's happened to me multiple times, is I don't know, like, what my life or, certain struggles relates to somebody, and God will just put them in my life, and they'll just start pouring their heart out, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, I can relate in this way, and this way. And I think it's really hard to do that unless you have a biblical mindset. Does that make sense? Like, There's no way to look at struggle without a biblical mindset and say this was a good thing.
I agree. I totally agree.
I guess you can maybe make an argument for other religions. From an atheistic standpoint, there's really not.
Sit next to
There's no hope at all.
Something on your iPad.
If you're an atheist, I'm sorry, but you can dispute me on what the heck is that? There's like a siren going on. But yeah, I like I said, nobody wants to enjoy suffering, but I think there's a way to do it that's a godly way that provides hope. But so you're gonna wrestle through 2020?
Yeah, through 2020, and the plan is through 2024. I love wrestling, and I love the opportunities it's given me. But
oh gosh.
I think that
Hey babe, can you give me my deodorant?
God hasn't stopped working in that way, and I think that he's used wrestling, and especially now I feel like wrestling is my platform to share my faith. And I want to continue that for as long as I have the opportunity. I feel like I have a short window to, I still have goals, even though I'm a big follower of Christ. I still have my own goals.
Yeah.
But, God willing, they come to fruition. But, if they don't, I want to have done everything I can. I don't think I would look back on, say in 2024, if I didn't achieve my goals, I don't think I would look back and say, man, that was a waste of time. Because, if I feel like if I continue on the track that I am in pursuing God and the relationship that I have with Him, like you said, I don't know who I'm going to impact. Even now, Kyle talks about it a lot of the time. We don't even understand the impact that we have on some people.
Yeah.
We really don't.
Yeah.
And my goal is to impact as many people as I can. I value relationships, and that's why I feel like once it was revealed to me that it was a relationship with Jesus, that's why I feel like I was able to connect, somewhat quickly, maybe quicker than others, maybe slower than others. I don't know. But, that's the joy in having faith, is that it's a process, and that every day you grow closer. Maybe you fall back. Maybe you grow closer. And I believe that I'm going to continue to grow closer. And, until the day that God stops working in my life, and I would hope that that's my last day.
Yeah.
To when I'm reunited with Him.
100% will be, my man. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do after wrestling? Do you know? I mean, what's your degree in, by the way?
Operations management.
Gotcha.
So I went into the Fisher College of Business at Ohio State.
So you're gonna be a professional fighter then?
Yeah, definitely not.
Some people want to do that for some reason. I don't know who.
Yeah, some people do. I did hear about my guy Barbell.
Oh yeah.
Christian Barbell Robertson.
It's actually not my middle name or my first name. Anthony Cassar, when we were hanging out, thought that was my first name. We were hanging out all day. We did the podcast, and a month later, he was in California, so we hung out, went to church, and he just starts busting out laughing on the way to church. I'm like, bro, what are you laughing about? He's like, I thought your name was Barbell. I had to look it up. I was like, bro, we've been hanging out for like 12 hours. You literally just stole my clothes from my house.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I definitely don't want to fight, but, I think it's awesome. And, from hearing you talk about it, like, I am curious as to how you, from your little story that you told,
yeah,
you just kind of figured it was your path. Like, how did that kind of come to be?
Yeah, so I was always really timid. I was always scared I'd say I was scared of getting in trouble as a kid. Because there was opportunity, and I just, I walked away, which I think there's value in walking away. I was telling some of the guys now, like, all you got to do is say my name, and it's probably, I'm not shy about it. I don't get mad. I'm just not scared of it. So I say a big degree. I was just really, I think I was a little scared of authority and getting any repercussions for it. Never wanted to do it. I would watch fights every once in a while, but never really saw myself. I was like, man, how do these guys just go out and bang like every day in the room? Like, that doesn't even make sense. And then one day, my sophomore year of college, I just woke up with like this desire to punch people in the face, and I didn't care if they hit me. I'd been in a few fights, but they were always like after somebody else hit me first. It really took a lot to get me to fight. And then one day I was just like, dude, if somebody looks at me wrong, like, it's going to be a bad day. And that actually ended up happening with one of my teammates. He said something I didn't like, and I was like, all right, let's go do this. And that kind of started it. And then 6 months later, this was in Oklahoma. 6 months later, I'm sparring with, I met Mark Munoz, and he brought me into the MMA gym he's got down in Huntington Beach. And 6 months later, I'm like, not even 6 months later, like 2 or 3 months later, I'm sparring with UFC champions, and like the people I'm working out with in the room, I'm like, hey, like, are you a professional? They're like, oh, I'm like 6-0 in the UFC. Like, just like or like I'll be like, I was sparring with Kelvin Gastelum one day. I had no idea who he was. And he's like, hey, I'm fighting a wrestler. Like, will you come work out with me? And I was like, yeah, sure. I'm like, what's your name? He's like, Kelvin. I'm like, who are you fighting? He's like, Chris Weidman. I'm like, oh my gosh, man. Like, I'm the Chris Weidman for your training camp. Like, are you kidding? So it's, so I don't know. Like, it's kind of weird to say I felt called to fight. Like I felt a calling, but I can't think of any other way to put it, man. Like, it was a complete night and day shift from not ever wanting to see a glove to not ever wanting to put a glove down, and then literally getting in the room and throwing hands with some of the best guys in the world. The guy, my first sparring partner ever, or the guy they brought me in to wrestle with, was the former heavyweight champ at the time, and was ranked 3rd in the world at the time. And I'm literally like getting punched and punching this guy in the face. Like, it's just crazy stuff. And I've been very fortunate. Like, when I moved, I thought I was going to train down there, but then I moved up to Oregon and found out that Chael Sonnen was like friends with people. And he was at the time, like, still is, but like, I was big into Chael. Like, I was watching all his videos. Like, this is when I lived in Oklahoma, and I'm watching all his videos, like, kind of, doing some of his mannerisms, like, around the house and like with other people and stuff. And then I find out, like, one of my best friends on the team, like, is friends with him, and I'm just like, okay, well, I got to meet him. Like, he's my favorite athlete. And then I get a chance to meet him, and he invites me to come train with him. And now he's like a training partner and a friend, and it's just like, to say it wasn't a calling and like all the things like going into place the way they did would be pretty hard to do. Like, not too many people ever get a chance to meet their favorite athlete, let alone befriend that person and have them as a mentor in their life. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And so, like,
So cool.
even though Chael and he took his career a different direction than I probably will as far as the trash talking goes, it's just such a blessing, man. And all those guys up there have been a real blessing on my life, and it's super cool to see, if this is something I'm going to do, which I got 2 more terms of college, and that's the plan. I'm definitely in the right place, and I've definitely been facilitated in that really well. So,
do you have any ideas on whether you're going to stay?
Being a world champ? Yeah, I think that's probably going to happen, unless Petrovilli decides he wants to get it. That guy is huge. He shook my hand. Usually I'm the guy that shakes people's hands, and people are like, dude, you have huge hands. I shook his hand. I was like, please, get this bear away from me. Like, Chewbacca, go away, dude. What were you saying, though?
Yeah, do you plan on staying in Oregon, kind of training out of where Chael trains, or going down Huntington Beach, Mark Munoz's club?
No, I'm going to train in Oregon. I really like the mentorship that Chael has had on my life, and I like the guys up there. It's a young crew, and I really want to see. First of all, Oregon is a very liberal state, and a lot of people are far from God. So I really feel like not only was I called to fighting in that regard, but I think I was called there too, especially Oregon State. And I think, I think God's using me there, and it's really been a blessing. We've talked about the fighting and stuff, but certain other aspects of things, coming to fruition within faith and within, my life, and seeing things happen in other people's lives. I really think I'm placed there for a reason, and some things are kind of aligning that look like Oregon's going to be the place for me for a little bit. So I like it out there, man. The coach actually contacted me, the coach of our ATT. I think it was Gracie Baja, and then they switched to ATT. So the coach actually, we were talking back and forth, kind of trying to get a road. Like, I'm going to sit down with him and get a roadmap down for all this. But he wants to speak to our team and try to bridge that gap, to kind of put it out there, hey, this is an option for you guys, and there's outlets and opportunity, because they let me train for free. They let me come in and work out every day I want for free because I'm a college wrestler and I don't have any money, which is another blessing. I should be paying $200 a month, and they let me come in for free. So that's super cool. And I think the coach wants, or the owner of the gym, wants to come talk to our guys and bridge that gap. Like Oregon has a real rich history of really tough fighters. You know, Matt Lindland, Dan Henderson, Chael, Randy Couture, Evan Tanner. I mean, there's been champ after champ, and I kind of want to see that continue. So I'm probably going to stay out there, yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a great place to be, honestly.
Dude, it's fun, man. It's so beautiful. The only thing, yeah, just there's a cultural thing out there going on, but it's fun, man. I really find that having one-on-one conversations with people that don't agree with you is of extreme value, because the macho-ness kind of drops. Most people can be themselves and actually have an intellectual dialogue, but when there's two or more people, it really becomes tough. So that's kind of a barrier there. But yeah, other than that, man, it's pretty cool. I'm already looking at some churches up in Portland that I'm gonna try to get plugged into, and pretty soon, start looking at some houses.
That's awesome.
So, you gonna stay? You know where you're going? You gonna break that news? Come on, man, tell me where, please.
I don't know at this point.
Joey.
Praying to God, man. Just trying to see where He wants me to be, and where I'm gonna be able to pursue Him and spread His message the most. I think, we had some good conversation last night about that.
Yeah.
And, definitely on my mind on kind of how He's gonna use me to, get in touch with people and create those relationships. And like I said, I want to use wrestling as that platform.
Yeah.
Wrestling has offered me so many opportunities up to date, and now with God in my life, I feel like the opportunities are even greater.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Joey, it's been a pleasure, man. This trip has been fun. I'm sure the traveling is going to be even more fun. How many hours is it for you? It's like 30 for me.
22.
Yeah, this is going to suck, man. I'm already sweating in the clothes I put on for the whole 30 hours. This is going to be horrible.
I'm taking a fresh shower at 2 a.m. right before we leave.
Are you?
Oh, yeah.
That's good, man. Dude, thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
No,
it's been a fun trip. It would if you would have told me 4 months ago, hey Christian, you'll be doing a podcast with Joey Mckenna in Georgia, I'm like, shut the hell up. What are you talking about? So it was fun, man.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
Thanks, brother.